Hello, I'm here in the grounds of Newbold College. This is more close behind me, the very famous lodging facility, the residence hall, that goes back in history. You can look it up, all the details about that. It's a rather cool and damp English day as we start a new quarter looking at prophecy, allusions, images and symbols. This is the first one, some principles of prophecy, and that's a very good place to begin, because when we talk about prophecy, all too often we're kind of going to, okay, let's talk about Daniel, let's talk about Revelation, but most of prophecy, the prophetic books of the Bible, are many of the books of the Old Testament, and they were calls from the prophet sent by God, appointed by him to go and tell his people not just things about what was going to happen in the future, not primarily, but to say, this is what you need to be doing. This is where things are going wrong. This is what the problem is. And this is why I have to do what I'm going to do. So as we look at this material here, we're given material in Jeremiah, from Daniel, Revelation, 2 Timothy, Hebrews and Jeremiah again. Think about what these principles really are. And there's a couple of good quotes from Isaac Newton. Interesting. You know, as somebody once said to me, oh yes, he was the inventor of gravity, wasn't he? No, not exactly, but he did define the law of gravity. He says this, and you wouldn't expect it from a scientist, but he was very much into the Bible and prophecy. He says this: prophecy is not given to make men prophets, but as a witness to God when it is fulfilled. You are talking about what God is saying, and when he talks about the future, you look back and say, aha, yes, that's what he said. He says also this, another quote: God gave the prophecies not to gratify men's curiosity by enabling them to foreknow things, and all too often that's really what we do with prophecy, isn't it? But that after they were fulfilled, they might be interpreted by the event and his own providence, not the interpreters, be therefore manifested to the world. In other words, God and his truth is represented to everybody by his ability to show what was going to happen and how it was fulfilled. The best way of looking at prophecy is to look backwards and to say, yes, this was what was said to happen and this is what has happened, when you talk about all of that. But as I say, I want to emphasize the point that most prophecy was for the people of the time, dealing with issues of the time. Some of those things obviously had continuation, application for the future. Many of our problems are the same today as they were then, and these prophecies still apply. But really, they were God witnessing to those people through his prophets. He called those prophets. Isaiah didn't even come to be called. He volunteered when God says, who shall I send? Isaiah says, send me, I'll go. I'm happy to go and do that. And so the fact that prophecy exists is a declaration that God knows. God knows the past, he knows the present, he knows the future. And by looking at things as they have been fulfilled, we gain confidence in him. That's why we as a faith community have often spoken about Daniel, for example, Daniel 2, the king's dream, and the empires that followed through prophecy. We look back and say, see, that is what happened, and that's why this happened in the way that it did, so that we can have confidence in the kind of person God is, because what he says he knows, he really does know, and there is no question about that. As we look here at the aspect of prophecy, it takes us, of course, to God, and then that takes us to the question of his existence. It's not just that we believe that God is speaking through his prophets, but that he does exist and that we can have confidence in him and the kind of person he is. And as I put in the notes, there's that great quote from Christina Rossetti, who says, "Were there no God, we would be in this glorious world with grateful hearts and no one to thank." When I look around the world and see so much beauty, even in this world of sin, I'm thankful that I know God, because I can thank him for making this world, for making all that's here, including me, and that he has a future for me. That's what prophecy helps me to understand.